That's us. I thought it'd be kind of cute to put that up on the site. Yeah, I was saying that off the top of the show that it's now been 4 decades since I've been doing an internet broadcast. And when someone mentioned that to me, I said, "No, that's not possible." Then I realized it's the '90s because it started in '94, and then the aughts, then the teens, now the 20s. So 4 decades, across 4 decades, I've been doing this ridiculousness. I'm Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
We hope you guys all had a great holiday season, a wonderful Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Festivus, and a wonderful, safe, fun New Year. We didn't do anything for New Year, did we?
Oh, we had a magical Christmas.
We had a great Christmas.
A wonderful Christmas.
There's no doubt about that. We had a wonderful time. We had great presents for everybody. Everyone got wonderful gifts.
Beautiful tree.
A beautiful tree. We got. Oh, wrong side. We got ow, that hurts. Wonderful Christmas card from the nicest man in the world, George Canellis. Thank you, George. And it says,
"Thank you, George.
Dear Shawn and Melissa, may your holidays be filled with laughter and fun. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the best, George and Deb Canellis." Thank you, George. You're the sweetest guy in the world.
Lovely.
Absolutely wonderful for you to do that, to send that card to us. Unlike a lot of places here in Vancouver, it doesn't snow. We had no snow at all. It was just rainy. I had a couple sunny days, but it rains a lot here in the Vancouver area. So we didn't have a white Christmas or anything along those lines. We didn't do anything, did we? We mostly just lazed around.
Oh, we had a very low key stay up till 1, 2 in the morning, sleep in. I just
watching
lazy.
TV and movies.
Well, we walked on the beach. We made bread. We made lovely food. What else did we do?
Had friends over.
Yeah.
A couple, one time, because we can't stand people.
No.
I'm kidding. But no, it was very low key. One of the upsides or downsides, depending on the way you look at it, we don't have much family. That's what we did. Weirdly enough, family wise, the stepsons, Damon and Rory, their dad came down from a town in northern BC called Smithers, and he came down for a visit, and we had This is going to sound weird, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't sound weird. We had a wonderful time hanging out with Shawn, the other Shawn.
We were very mature.
The other Shawn, the photographer. He came over for Christmas dinner.
He had Christmas dinner, then he came over for breakfast one day.
I made him non-poisoned waffles. We hung out. I discovered why I really don't like him. He's a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, so right there.
Oh, no, he's a Canucks fan.
He can die.
True and true.
But no, it was a lovely, mature hanging out
Good
time.
for the boys.
But definitely, and that's why you do it. You do it for the kids. That's their father, and he's definitely always going to be in their lives. And he should be. But there's that possibility of either Melissa feeling awkward, or me feeling awkward, or Shawn feeling awkward, and it didn't happen.
It was good.
It was great that none of us felt weird about it. We hung out and had coffees. And what are you doing?
Rory's there. Go away.
Speaking of, he wants something. He wants to buy something, doesn't he?
Oh, he's got a sketch of a lightsaber that he did that he wants to. Let's show.
You gonna show it?
And put
Come in. Rory's behind us.
Rory's done
he's
a sketch.
He's
our family artist.
Artiste. Nice.
Love it.
Just drew a sketch of a lightsaber.
Oh,
whose
whose
lightsaber
is it?
We are
Who
not,
can guess whose lightsaber it is?
We are not nearly nerdy enough to know whose lightsaber.
Why would we know?
Because it says Anakin.
I thought it was color. Oh, it has Anakin written
says
on
Anakin
it. Well,
written
that
on it.
was.
There we go.
I thought it would depend on the color.
Thank you, Rory. Scott Thrift says, "Hey, Rory." Scott's in Australia, Rory. So.
Yeah. So is Les, isn't he?
Les Poston is also in.
G'day.
So speaking of Australia, we definitely want to send a big shout out to our friends and family in Australia: Scott, Les, Jason, and our Melissa's family there. It's an awful situation. It's only getting worse. We've seen a lot of things on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and that kind of stuff. And you may have seen my post on the Loop about sharing that information. Try not to share stuff that's not verified. There's one graphic that's going around that's supposed to be a satellite image of Australia. It's not. It makes Australia look like it's all red. Like all of Australia's on fire.
No.
It's a satellite image of heat map. And it's summertime in Australia, so it's going to look very, very warm. This is a good map of the Australian fires. You can see in the lower right-hand corner, it's the southeast corner of Australia, where it's particularly bad, but it's also bad in the northern sections, all on the coastlines. You don't see much in the middle of Australia because it's desert, but along the coastlines in a lot of places, it is horrific. And unfortunately, it's just going to get worse because this is the beginning of the summer for our Australian friends and family. So hopefully everyone we know is staying safe. If you can help out in any way, there are firefighters from around the world. I know Canadians have gone, Americans have gone. We just got told that by Scott Thrift in Sydney. If you can help out with donations to...
I put that link on there.
You put what link on where?
To that donation
the Facebook
place.
donate place. Okay. Let me just pick that up and show folks. Geez. I cleaned up and now all my cables are all messed up.
That was my Christmas present. Shawn cleaning up his desk.
Please help any way you can. This is terrifying. It's the fundraiser for the trustee for New South Wales Rural Fire Service and Brigades Donations Fund by Celeste Barber. If you want the URL to that, let me know or just do a search for it on Facebook. I didn't realize that most of Australian firefighters are volunteers. Here in North America, at least in our cities, most of them are professionals. But most of the firefighters in New South Wales are volunteer firefighters. So they're working extra hard. I mean, they've got jobs. They've got real jobs, and they're taking that time off.
I'm sure they're giving them time off. Most small towns have volunteer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So if you can help in any way, please donate to our friends and family in Australia. What else? Something else that was going on.
Isn't there something going on in Las Vegas that, well, you guys are probably going to talk about that.
CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, no longer called that, although we still call it that. CES is this week. It is the world's largest consumer electronics show.
Wow.
It's massive. It is. I've been there, I think probably maybe half a dozen times and hated every minute of every day.
Why?
Because it's too big. You can't walk far enough to get enough information to be coherent about it.
Could you go there with one thing in mind that you're interested in, kind of thing?
You have to go with a target. You have to go with a team. Back in the day, especially if you're a Mac user or an Apple focused journalist, back in the day, a few years ago, there was an area where all the Apple stuff was, but it's no longer the case anymore. So you have to almost walk the entire show floor and stuff, and look around the corner, and hopefully you see some stuff. But it's an impossible show to cover from that kind of.
Did they do good maps and?
No.
Oh, they don't. You just got to wander. Oh no, I couldn't.
End up wandering. It's also spread out over a massive area. It used to be just in the Las Vegas Convention Center, which sounds like a good idea, except that the Las Vegas Convention Center isn't on the Las Vegas Strip. So that thing you see in the movies and the videos, that one street, the convention center isn't anywhere near there.
Oh.
So all the hotels that are all popular or that are on the Strip, the convention center isn't there. So you can't even walk to the convention center. It's a monorail, but with 300,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
All trying to get to the same place. The monorail's a nightmare. Cab lineups are 2 hours long. So you can't walk, you can't take a cab, you can't take the monorail. It's just a nightmare to get there. One year, for those folks who know Las Vegas, I was staying in the Tropicana, which is in the south end of the Strip. The convention center is on the northeastern, I'm going to guess, eastern side of the Strip. And CES has a bus pickup zone. And so you just go there, and every half hour there's shuttle buses. Great, fantastic.
That
so you
sounds
go,
good.
fantastic. So I thought I'll just walk from my hotel to the next hotel, the MGM Grand, Tropicana, and across the street's MGM Grand. I timed it from closing my hotel door to literally through the Tropicana, across the street, and then through the MGM Grand was a 45-minute walk.
Oh.
So I've already walked 45 minutes just to get to the shuttle bus. We didn't have fitness trackers at that point, but I guarantee on a regular day, I, who are extraordinarily lazy, would have walked 10 kilometers a day easily without even
That's a
trying.
good thing.
But when you're not used to that kind of thing, like most people aren't, doing that all of a sudden for 6 days is exhausting. And then there's all kinds of events before and after a CES, not just the show floor, but a lot of companies try to save money by not buying a booth in the show floor, but they'll get a hotel suite. And so now you've been invited to go see this new thing from this company, so you got to find their hotel, and it's not on the convention center, it's on the strip somewhere. So now you got to go to Mandalay Bay and then back to it's
Oh
a
my
nightmare.
gosh, it sounds horrible.
Yeah, absolutely horrible show to cover. And then to top it all off, and we'll talk about this later on, there's really not a lot at CES for consumers.
Oh,
There's stuff there for the future, maybe.
inventors.
No, not for inventors so much, but it's technology and concepts and products that aren't really available today. It's not like you can go. So LG announces a new 8K 75-inch screen. Ooh, it looks amazing. Can I buy it? No, not for 6 months.
Oh, so it's developing.
It's a lot of developing technology. A lot of stuff this time around on connected homes. A lot of stuff on security and things like that. Cars have become very, very big at CES, car technology. A lot of robotics, a lot of TV stuff. Not as many phones, not so much, because the Mobile World Congress in Spain is the big phone one, so you didn't hear too much about phones. But TVs are the big sexy thing.
Are they?
And right now, the big thing in TVs, from a developer point of view, is 8K TV. And as I posted on the Loop this morning, don't buy an 8K TV.
Oh.
There's no content for it. No one's making 8K content.
Oh.
This is the same, CES is the same place where the hype over 3D TV was 5 years ago. And if you had any brains, you'd know, no, 3D TV wasn't going to be a thing.
No.
I don't think 8K TV is going to be a thing either, for the most part, because a lot of what we get on our TV via content nowadays is streaming, and no one's streaming in 8K. People are barely streaming in 4K. That's a resolution thing. It's a visual quality of it.
Oh, I see.
And for most of us, we don't have a TV set or a streaming capability that takes advantage of 4K, so the picture quality isn't as good. When we're sitting across the room from our TV, a 4K screen versus an HD screen, you can't tell the difference. It's only when you get up close to it can you tell the difference, like 2 feet away. But who sits in front of a 75-inch TV 2 feet away from it?
2 feet away, no.
So it's all a lot of hype. It's a way of manufacturers trying to convince people to buy these things they don't actually really need. So yeah, it's a very, very weird show. A lot of MacMan says mostly vaporware. A lot of vaporware. A lot of imaginary products that. And what really pisses me off is sorry, I'll talk about this later because we got to get to Jim later on the show. We're going to talk about Apple's iPhone night mode contest, and I'll tell you how to win. I have a foolproof way. No, I don't. But there is something that's going to be consistent among all these night mode photos that we're going to see at the end of the end of January, and I'll tell you what that is. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thanks very much for joining me here on our first show of 2020 and with our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
Well, Shawn, I have to admit something to you.
Uh-oh.
I kind of missed you.
You could have called me on Wednesday, you know.
Oh, I said kind of.
Kind of.
Not enough to actually call.
To do anything about it. That's right.
It was, kind of like one of those things where you're sitting on the coast and say, hey, I miss Shawn.
That's right. Did you do anything interesting for Christmas or New Year's? Did you go anywhere? You were on a beach somewhere? What did you do?
I spent Christmas in Puerto Vallarta.
Nice.
And
I think that's one of the things that at a certain age, that's just kind of, we're okay with that. We don't got to be up at midnight anymore, unless it's an accident.
Well, I'm up at midnight for my kids, which is 8 o'clock in California. So, I wish them a Happy New Year, and then I'm free to go to bed whenever I want. And
that's right.
The one of our favorite bars closes at 3 on New Year's Eve. They're not open on New Year's Eve. The guy has enough money where he just doesn't care. So
good for him.
So he closes down. He doesn't want the hassle. So we go to the dive bar, which is our other favorite bar, and they're open 365 days a year. Christmas Day, I'm serious, every single day they're open.
Well, you know what? There's got to be at least one place in each town that stays open like that, a bar or a restaurant or something like that. Because not everyone has a family or wants to be with their family or things like that. So, I have no problem with that.
Well, you know what's really interesting about this place? It's called the Saddle Room, and it's in Redwood City. It is just the diviest place that you'd ever see in your life. But everybody in there has their own seat.
Yeah.
So when they come in, they don't sit somewhere else. If you're in their seat, you get up.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, and like for Thanksgiving Day, we went down there at 10 or 11 in the morning and said hi to the bartender and had a few drinks. People came in and brought plates of food for people that didn't have anywhere to go. They set them up on a table, and you could have Thanksgiving dinner there if you didn't have any place to go.
Those are the great places. It's good.
Dive bar, but one of the best.
But a good place. That's good. Let's talk a little bit about
I thought we were done.
Goodbye. That's right. 9 to 5 Mac, Benjamin Mayo did a really good piece on defining the decade, 10 years of Apple on one page. I really think that you could easily describe the teens, 2010 to 2019, as the year, as the decade of Apple. It doubled its size. It became a $1 trillion company in 2019. Its share price doubled. Its services increased. Apple Watch, everything increased. I hope this puts the end to all the talk of how Tim Cook isn't the guy to lead Apple. But were there any high points of the decade of Apple that you saw, good or high or low points?
You know what? What's funny about Apple when you look back at the decade is that you could take any year and say, oh yeah, that was a pivotal moment, or this one, whether it's Apple Watch or iPad Pro, or this year with the Mac, this year was all about Pro. AirPods Pro, Mac Pro, MacBook Pros. I mean, just everything. I mean, so for me, it's tough to go back and look. I mean, is there a pivotal moment in the if there was one for me, a pivotal moment in the tens and teens, it would probably be health.
See, now I would disagree with that.
I think Apple really took off and found a stride with health and the Apple Watch in this decade. And I think it kind of gave them a different perspective on what their customers were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that there's anybody else, any other company out there that has that type of perspective.
No.
Because I mean, if you look at the other, well, let's call them exercise watches or exercise wearables.
Yep.
They're basically counting steps.
Yep.
I mean, let's be honest.
They're not doing much else.
They're not doing much else. You know, Apple is working with some of the best medical institutions in the world
Yep.
to offer assistance, and that I think is a huge thing for Apple.
Yeah.
And medical facilities as well. So, you know, I guess a lot of this comes down to how you look at it. I mean, are you looking at it from the greater good? Are you looking at it from what made Apple the most money? Well, that would be each year's iPhone.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, did they change the iPad market? Yeah, they did. Still don't think it's where they want it to be, but you know, the Mac is strong as ever.
I think the absolute pivotal moment in Apple in that the decade past was Steve Jobs' death. I think that affected the company. I think it changed the company. I think it made the company what it is today. They felt they had to do whatever it is they felt to do. They weren't riding on Steve's coattails anymore. I think that was the single most pivotal moment in Apple for the last 10 years.
Okay, you win.
Thank you. Let's go through Benjamin's list and just say, on a scale of, I knew I would, on a scale of 1 to 10, you give me a sense of how important you think each one of these things or events were. The introduction of the iPad.
How important from
Yep.
1 to 10?
Yep.
9.
Really? That high?
Yep.
See, I'd give it a 6. I think it was very important, but it tailed off so much in the last, say, 4 or 5 years.
I'm looking at the future, though.
Yeah,
I
true.
think this is where things are going.
Okay.
So the introduction of where things are going, I think, is important.
How about the Adobe Flash fight?
I'd probably give that a 6 because I think Flash was on its way out anyway.
Yeah,
I think Steve just up and killed it
Yep.
in one fell swoop. So
that's why I'd give it a 4. I think it was inevitable.
Okay.
It was going to happen anyway, and I think Jobs had his own ulterior motives to doing that. They didn't want to code
absolutely.
the OS for it, which made perfect sense. But yeah, they certainly hastened the death of Flash, but it was going to die anyway.
Yeah.
Antenna Gate.
How important?
Yep.
Oh, fuck. Shit. Sorry.
Happy New Year. Nothing's changed.
Antenna Gate 3.
Yeah, 3 too. It was big in the moment, but it didn't affect the company overall.
Well, the only reason that I would give it any weight at all is that I think it made Apple. I mean, don't forget that they fired the guy, or he left.
Yeah.
That did that.
Yeah.
You know, following Antenna Gate. So I think it made them rethink how they do that whole process.
Mm-hmm.
So, but was it very important overall? I don't think so.
The 2010 MacBook Air introduction.
8.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one because it affected so much of what came after it.
Yeah, and not only that, it affected the way that we look at computers.
Yes.
We look at laptops. You know, was that one brilliant? Well, in some ways, yeah, in a lot of ways it was.
Yeah.
But you know, there were power problems and things like that with it too. But overall, I think it was pretty significant because of what it led to.
Exactly. Siri.
Oh, fuck, Siri. Look there, you got me swearing again. Siri's a tough one. I give Siri anywhere from a 4 to a 7.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, because that's the type of answer Siri would give me. Yeah. So, I know that Siri is important. I know that AI and machine learning are important. It's just, for me, it's just not there. For a lot of people, maybe it is,
Yeah.
but I mean, I have very simple needs, and it's still not there.
Yeah, I think it's more important to a very small subsection of people, those folks who do rely on voice assistants, either for their day-to-day work or for those folks who are disabled in some way, shape, or form, who
Right.
need Siri and voice activation. But I think for the average person, Siri is definitely down to around a 4.
Yeah.
Apple Maps screw up.
So not Apple Maps, but the screw up itself?
The screw up itself. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the screw up itself, I'd probably give about a 5 because it led to Scott leaving the company or being fired, basically.
Yep.
But I think it also led to a lot of cleanup.
Yes.
And, you know, the reason that I give it a 5 is because Apple was forced into that position by Google.
Yes.
And, you know, was Maps ready? No, but they probably launched it too early. And, you know, was Scott ready for it? Probably not. So, you know, how important was it? Well, how important is Maps right now? I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, if we talk about Maps today, I would say
Right.
overall for Apple, I'd give Maps an 8. But that screw up, I think, was a 4 or 5 in the way it directed the company over those 10 years.
It's another one of those things that, you know, the only reason I give it weight is because of what came after it.
Yes.
Looking back, was that a big deal? Nah, not really. But what became of it was a big deal.
Apple buying Beats.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So Apple buying Beats. Can we just put that in the last decade? Apple buying Beats, I would give it. I'm gonna overweight it at a 6, because it led to help the services. And again, this is one of those ones for me that Beats headphones suck balls. They always have. They always will. And I've argued with Beats people about this at a bar. So, you know, I have no issue in saying.
Beats is important for not in the moment that it happened, because in the moment we all thought, why are they buying a headphone company? It's what came after it, the groundwork, like a lot of these things that it led to. So I think that's where Beats gets its overweight, is what the foundation of it wasn't that big of a deal.
What would you rate it?
Beats,
you haven't told me why you would rate any of the past things that we talked about.
That's not true. I've said a couple of them. I'd say Beats, the purchase itself, a 5. What came afterwards, I'd give it a 7.
Okay. Well, and I said 6. So.
Yeah. Apple Watch. The unveiling of the Apple Watch. Yeah.
Apple Watch, I would have to go with 8 or 9.
Yeah, even in the moment, even with the original Apple Watch.
I think Apple Watch was important for so many different reasons, because it not only opened up a new category for Apple to you know, work with its customers on, because you had the iPhone and you had all these things, and again, you know, things to come later like cellular Apple Watch and all of this kind of stuff.
Yep.
But the health, and I mean, if I look at it just from a health perspective, I'd give Apple Watch a 10.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it is just outstanding. And, you know, I have my own relationship with my Apple Watch that I just absolutely love. So in that respect, I'd give it an absolute 10.
Yeah.
I think it was hugely important. I don't necessarily like how, and I said this for years, I think there are a lot more people like me that could get a lot of use out of Apple Watch than the very fit people
Agreed.
that Apple shows on its commercials.
Yep.
Because while I am extraordinarily handsome,
Devastatingly so.
Well, I mean, some would say, I am not always the most fit person in the world.
Yep.
So, I think that there are probably 10 times the amount of people like me that could benefit from the Apple Watch if Apple would only turn that spotlight on those people and say, we can help you.
I think the other big problem with the Apple Watch is expense. They're very relatively expensive. It's hard.
It's okay. I was just pouring my heart out there. You can interrupt me and, whatever you want to do, Shawn, whatever turns your crank. I see that we're back to normal now, and that's okay.
It is my show. You have your own goddamn podcast, okay? So shut up.
Well, no, that's you could hang up on me at any moment. I understand that. Any moment.
And to be fair, vice versa,
but
yeah, no, I think that's a big thing that stops a lot of people and why they go to. I think it's the only advantage Fitbit has now. We had a couple of our good friends buy Fitbits over the holidays for each other so they could track their fitness kind of stuff. And I asked them why the Fitbit over the Apple Watch, and they said because here in Canada, a brand new Apple Watch is $600-700, whereas a Fitbit is $125, $150, depending on which model you get. So I think that's preventing a lot of people from getting Apple Watches.
Right, but if you wanted to, I mean, let's be perfectly clear here. If what you want is to track steps and things like that, I understand that argument, but you wouldn't get that same argument from somebody that wanted to enroll in a Stanford Health medical thing.
Yep.
You can't do that from the Fitbit. They would spend the $700 and get an Apple Watch. So yeah, I get it though. I mean, we're always going to have price conscious people. Yep. I mean, hell, I'm a price conscious person. So we're always going to have that versus functionality.
Yeah, true. There's a whole bunch of other things there, folks. Go to 9to5Mac and check out the article Defining the Decade, or check it out linked on The Loop at loopinsight.com. I posted a story just for Christmas, why the iPad is my personal gadget of the decade. Do you have a personal gadget that you love the most from the past 10 years or use the most from the past 10 years? Doesn't have to be an Apple product. It could be any gadget.
My Bic lighter?
For me, I have to say my iPhone.
Yeah.
Even though the iPhone obviously wasn't introduced then, I've used iPhones every single moment of every single day for the past 10 years. I literally have not had my iPhone for the past 10 years outside of my arm's reach for more than it takes to have a shower. It's the thing I use constantly every day.
Even then, it's within arm's reach.
Exactly. That's right. So
because it's playing music for me. So
I think the iPhone is my most important piece of technology, and certainly, obviously, therefore, my favorite piece of technology and gadget over the past 10 years.
And just to clarify, Canadians only shower once a year.
Well,
so
that's all we have to.
That's not, well, yeah. I mean, that's not having the iPhone out of that reach isn't a big a deal as what it may seem. I mean, the biggest probably, I mean, the iPhone is something that, but it's such an easy answer, you know?
But it's true.
I mean, okay, so eliminate the iPhone. What else? I think the AirPods are great.
Yeah.
I love the AirPods.
Yeah, I can't, there's no other gadget that comes even close to the daily, hourly use of my iPhone. I've got lots of gadgets, but there's nothing, if I had to choose something, it would be the GPS on my motorcycle. That's the only thing I use.
So eliminate Apple.
Yeah.
what would it be?
Yeah, it would be the Garmin GPS on the motorcycle. That's the thing that
Okay.
you use the most and like using, enjoy using as much as the iPhone. You use it a lot less. Is all. I'm thinking about that right now, and yeah, there's nothing else. That's a gadget. I got hard drives I use, and I've got microphones I use, and cameras and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, there's nothing I enjoy using as much as the GPS when it comes to non-Apple or non-iPhone things. I don't even use my iPad that much anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm still a Mac guy.
Yeah.
But for me, the outside of Apple would probably be Universal Audio. Some music gear.
Yeah.
The Apollo or something like that for Universal Audio that really sparked me.
Did you find it interesting? Apple announced today, Apple rings in new era of services following landmark year. Apple made money, as we expect, hand over fist, especially on New Year's Day, where they made, I think, almost $386 million on New Year's Day 2020 alone, a 20% increase over last year, and a new single-day record. I was surprised that people didn't notice this more. Notice there was no information about Apple News subscribers or revenue, Apple TV subscribers or revenue, or anything else. They only talked about those kind of services. They didn't break it down in any way, shape, or form. Is that unexpected or par for the course for Apple?
No, I think right now that's par for the course. So it's funny that you mentioned that, though. Because I just canceled my Apple News Plus.
And the reason?
I wasn't using it.
Yep, same with me.
I mean, this is when it comes down to when you say price conscious people. Yep. I mean, I am a price. What is that? $10 a month or something? I don't want to spend money on something just because it's Apple. Right. If I'm not going to use it, then I'm just not going to use it.
You want value for the money.
Right. So when I think every year I take a look at, okay, what are my subscriptions? What am I have newsletters. I have, websites. I have Apple subscriptions. I also canceled, I had that Quello. Is that what it's a concert app for the Apple TV and I mean, some great concerts on there, but again, it was like $5 or $10 a month. Yeah. And I might watch a couple of concerts a year. Yeah. So I cut that off too. So it wasn't just Apple News. Yeah. It was, everything that I wasn't using.
And there's no way to justify, I don't think, Apple News Plus. It's just not good enough. I was obviously smarter than you because I didn't even pay a dime for it. But 29 days in, I went, I'm not paying for this. This is just not cutting it for me. And nothing's changed. I've been following others' comments on Apple News, and it has not gotten better in any kind of significant way. It has not gotten more valuable to users. If you liked it in the first month, you're going to keep liking it. But if you were looking for Apple to move this thing forward, get better, they didn't do it after X numbers of months. And yeah, I wouldn't pay for it, and I recommend other people don't pay for it.
I don't agree with your original statement there, where if you liked it the first month, you'll continue to like it, because I did like it. I liked how they broke out stories instead of publications, and there were things that I think were good, but I stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, it just stopped being useful for whatever reason.
Yep.
And this is Apple's third foray into, news of some kind. So remember they had that publication with Rupert Murdoch.
That's right. Yep.
They were big into that, and that went under. Then they had the magazines and all of that they would publish, and that went under.
Yep.
Well, newsstand, and now they have this, and I don't know. It's not looking good.
I think this is Apple's latest version of social. we've always teased Apple that they can't do social. Now they're
No,
proving they can't
I don't
do
think
news.
so. Yeah, well, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but I don't know that anybody can really do news because news is basically free.
Yeah, that's right.
And, in order to get something that's not free and get people to pay for it, it has to be something extraordinary.
Yep.
And, there are very few publications that have something extraordinary. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times come to mind. But I've had subscriptions to those places for years. So I don't know. It just didn't make the cut when it came down to looking through my subscriptions and saying, I still have that?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think News Plus is the weakest link when it comes to Apple services. It costs too much and it doesn't give you enough for what you're paying. We expected better from Apple when it came to news, not just regurgitation of the same stuff we could have gotten in other places. I was expecting better user interfaces, more consistent user interfaces, and more variety. We just didn't get any of that stuff out of Apple.
And I think that's part of the problem right there is the consistency.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to one magazine and swipe left to right to see stuff and then go to the next magazine and you have to scroll down or you have to do something funky and then go to the third one and it's just a PDF.
Yep, exactly.
Well, if I'm paying $10 a month for a PDF, screw you.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
That's right.
So, I agree with you there.
Just wasn't enough of a value add. Speaking of value, I posted this up on Facebook and Twitter when it popped up in my memories. This is the 20th anniversary of Macworld Expo 2000, which is a pivotal one in a lot of ways. Now this week with CES going on, you've never attended a CES, have you?
I've been to 2.
You too, okay. And how long ago were those?
Oh God, probably about at least. What is it? 19. So more than 10 years ago. Yeah. I went with Jonathan Seth.
Okay, yeah.
Remember from Macworld. John and I went down and did a couple of those.
Not a lot has changed from the point of view of covering it. It's still a massive show. It's gotten even bigger.
No,
I've been to half a dozen of them, and we often would compare CES to the old Macworld Expos, and CES never came off well because of its size. Yes, there's 300,000 people there, and yes, you can get your product in front of a large number of people, but because of the massive scale of CES, it was never any fun to cover as a journalist.
Mm-mm.
It was
well, John and I were there for Macworld.
Yep.
And there was no hope that we were going to be able to visit everybody, let alone,
close.
we could barely visit all the important people that we wanted to see. And by important, I just mean people that have products that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough to be able to just visit those because there's so many. I mean, this year there's 2.5 million square feet of booth space. Yeah. So, I mean, they have people diving into pools and just crazy stuff going on.
And there's also too much to cover in those 2.5 million square feet. There's just there's whole categories. You can't cover the entire category, for crying out loud. It's always been a shame to me that IDG was too proud that when, and this is a little unknown story, when CTA, the company that runs CES, asked IDG to move Macworld Expo to CES, to the Las Vegas Convention Center, and so they would run the shows simultaneously. Because for folks, if you don't remember, for many years, CES and Macworld overlapped, if not completely, but at least for a few days. And CES was always pissed off that half the journalists there would leave CES to go to San Francisco to cover Steve Jobs' keynote. And so they wanted those journalists to stay in Las Vegas. So they asked, after Apple said they weren't going to show at Macworld Expo anymore, hey, why don't you guys just come and do your show with us? Instead of competing, both of us, just bring all your vendors to Las Vegas. And IDG said, no, we can make this go all on its own. obviously 4 years later, they put the show on hiatus, as they're still calling it. And it's a real shame that they did that. I always felt that IDG didn't understand that they weren't putting on a CES type show; they were putting on a community event.
Right.
That's the way I always thought of Macworld Expo. Is that it was for the community of
Well,
vendors,
and
community of journalists.
for a lot of us, it was.
Yep, that's right.
You know, we would go to Dave's.
Yep.
And we would walk by the booths, and we would know everybody.
Yep.
And I mean, it was a community event. But it was a big community event for the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it never got out of scale like CES does. But there's a lot.
People don't realize that iLounge took over after CTA got turned down by IDG for some bizarre reason. They went to the website iLounge, which is now just a complete dreck of a website. But at the time, it was the biggest iOS-based website out there. It was competing. It was better than Macworld in the iOS space. And they took over and did a show for, I think, about 4 or 5 years, the iLounge Showcase. And it became bigger than Macworld Expo. It literally, in the last year of Macworld Expo, the iLounge had more floor space, more visitors, more vendors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it could have been that for Macworld Expo. And I think if IDG had done that, there'd still be a Macworld Expo going on right now in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I don't think so.
How come?
I don't know. I just don't think so. I think that Macworld Expo ran its course, and I kind of think that all of the trade shows have kind of run their course, to be honest. I just, and again, maybe it's just because there's so much information out there that you can get without the trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a time when a trade show was an actual trade show.
Yes.
And I'll bring up again, NAMM is one of those where you have to be in the industry to go.
Yeah.
But there's still 90,000 people that go. I mean, that's pretty huge. So you can't just be a member of the public and walk into NAMM. So that one is an actual trade show, whereas I don't know that you really need the other shows to get out, like CES, all the fake products that are never going to be released.
Yeah.
I just...
But it's possible that IDG could have made Macworld Expo a little bit of that, because we saw some of that with their developer showcase area. As they got more desperate for people to show up, they started offering this little tiny booth space. And now CES has that area. It's called the Eureka Plaza or Eureka Park, where those same kind of little tiny vendors with one little tiny product are trying to get people interested in it. And that was a big part of the last phase of Macworld Expos. I'd like to think, even if I'm wrong, I'd like to think that we would have kept going to Las Vegas, if only because there would have been the synergy between the small area of Macworld Expo. But hey, guess what? We can go over here and see flying cars, kind of thing.
No, I think you're wrong.
Yeah, possibly.
Mm.
But it is a shame. I've always lamented the loss of Macworld Expo, if only because it always felt to me that it wasn't a show that was dying because of the users or because of the vendors or because of the press. It was a show that died because IDG screwed it up.
Well, I mean, there's that, and there's Apple pulling out because that's when they started having their own special events. They just didn't need a Macworld anymore, and the pressure to deliver on Macworld was just too high.
And I absolutely blame Steve Jobs for that too. I really do blame Jobs for not recognizing how the community supported Apple through its hard times and got Apple to the place where they could do that. They could leave the show. I don't think they should have left the show. It was fine if Apple said, hey, we're not going to do keynotes anymore. We're not going to do product announcements, but we're going to have a booth, and you can come see whatever it is we've announced over the last year. Apple should have done that. Apple should have supported the community the way the community supported Apple.
Yeah.
Remember, Apple didn't pay for that booth. Apple didn't fork out any money for the direct booth space at IDG.
different times.
Sure, yeah, it is, and maybe you're right. Maybe it wouldn't be successful now because of the information age that we're living in, where everything is online. But still, I do lament the loss of community, the loss of, as I said, the user community, the journalist community, the vendor community, of meeting people face to face and putting names to faces and voices.
Well, I can barely talk to you once a week. I can't imagine seeing you. I mean,
I still remember the day, the night you dragged me into Denny's and made me drink a Heineken. That was like 10 years ago. I can still taste that shitty beer.
Yeah.
Still,
I'm having one right now.
You still have no taste buds after all these years.
Well,
again, if only because of the memories of Macworld Expo. You, me, Stan, Flack, Peter Cohen, and a few other people sitting at Virgil's in New York City with Stan Flack up to his elbows in barbecue juice because he didn't know how to eat, apparently.
Well, apparently not.
You and me in Paris at the JBL booth, eating all the prosciutto, drinking all their wine, and eating their prosciutto.
Yeah. And that was like 11 in the morning. We were hammered, at
and
the
smoking
Paris
on the
Expo.
show floor.
And smoking on the show floor, yes, I remember that well. I remember the first part of the day well. I don't know if I remember the last part of the day very well.
I still remember going to the setup day. And the setup day was the day before the show floor opened, and you could kind of sneak on the show floor and wander around and talk to folks before the madness of the show came up. And I walked up to Joe Milano, who was the PR guy for JBL, and I looked at his booth as they were putting it up. I said, "Dude, is that on purpose?" He said, "What?" I said, "That spelling mistake." He looked at it and went, "Fuck!" They had one of those floor-to-ceiling things on it, and the letters were like 4 feet high each, and there was a spelling mistake on it. Poor Joe had to rush to some Kinko's place and get it redone before the show opened the next day.
Oh, my God.
It was hilarious. It was like, dude, how could no one see that? It was funny.
Every booth had a bar.
Every booth had a bar in Paris. That's right. Yeah, it was great. Anyway, folks, we're talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. His podcast is on the iTunes store. It's the Dalrymple Report. Check it out each and every week with Jim and Dave Marks from The Loop. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk next week, buddy. See ya.
Bye.
Folks, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the iPhone Night Mode contest and more thoughts on CES and Macworld. All that and more coming up right after this short break. This is your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining us here this Wednesday evening. I forgot to mention off the top of the show, this is show number 1,239. Done a few of these things. None of them have been as much fun as when my beautiful wife Melissa's with me.
You must want something.
Listen to that giggle. Isn't that the world's greatest giggle from a grown woman?
It's got an iPhone 11.
No, I don't want anything. I'm just saying. This is somebody sent this to me. This I'm going to cover up Melissa's face on this one. My apologies. But look at this Landsat image. I'm going to put this full screen on Twitter of how it can be difficult to imagine just how smoky Australia's skies have become. Hang on, let me just do that. So there's the before shot and there's the after shot. That's how much smoke. This is in the Malakota or Malakuta. Do you know that area? Extreme southeast. South
Australia, yeah.
Tasmania, but it's pretty incredible what's going on down there. So again, if you can donate or if you can support the efforts of the firefighters down there, please do. It's an awful thing. I can't watch or look at any more of the pictures of the koalas and the kangaroos and the wallabies and the wombats inside.
There was a little boy who put a bunch of koalas in the car.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I saw that one. Yeah. Trying to save the little guys. Something like 80% of the koalas in New South Wales have perished.
Oh, yes.
You said they're now not officially, but
they're
likely to be an endangered species.
Yes.
Yeah. It's shame. Monty says, wow, that must be almost impossible to breathe.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that the air quality in Sydney was 50 times higher than it's ever been before. It's worse than any other city in the world right now. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's very bad.
Do you have? You're an occupational therapist. You belong to the College of Occupational Therapists. COT. Is that COT?
It's the CO College of OT of. Oh, it's a weird acronym.
Do you guys have conventions? Do you guys have conferences? Do you?
Oh, yes. Well, if you're a member of the Canadian Association of Occupational Therapists, they have conferences and.
But you've never gone. In 2 years I've been with you.
I went to a professional development set up by them. But
it's different than a conference.
You can go to conferences with the college, but I'm not that interested. I mean, I have to do my exams and I have to do all of my qualifications with them, but I don't go to their conferences for leadership and things like that.
The reason why I was asking is I'm curious to know if it's and if anyone else has any background on this, please let me know. Do other conferences and expos and trade shows, are they contracting the way some of them have been? I think it's Photo Plus has cut itself down into half size. I don't think it's doing it in New York City this year. There's all kinds of conferences, and it's a shame that I like conferences. I like the idea. Yes, you can get a lot of this information on the internet, but it's different reading something on the web versus seeing someone present it to me versus being able to talk to colleagues about what we just saw versus seeing products in your hand kind of thing.
Oh, I'd much rather. Oh, no. I go to conferences, pediatric conferences, and then you get to rub shoulders with, and that's why I go mostly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For me, I always said that Macworld Expo, the actual show floor was less important than the meeting of the people.
Right. Yeah.
Than putting a face to that name or to that voice or to that person you've corresponded with or you read a book about or a paper on. For me, it was a lot of the journalist guys because there was a separate at Macworld Expos. There was a separate area for the press and for speakers, and you get to sit down and have lunch with them. You'd be a big table, and you'd sit down. And you go, "Hey, I'm so and so. Oh, I know you. I read your stuff on this website." Or things like that.
I think that you can have the highest education in the land, but if you don't have the ability to go and network and have people skills and share knowledge and connect with people, you're not going to be successful.
It makes a huge difference
in most fields, I would say.
Interesting. I wonder if that's true.
Well, I think about my son Damon. He's not the academic in the family. You know, he's not a silly kid, but Damon's got a quality. He could always walk into a room and you'd watch him work the room. He's just got something about him, and he's made a lot of things happen in his life that way. So you can't be, if you're introverted and shy, or you don't want to meet people and share information and work collaboratively, I don't think you'll be as successful.
I think for me, the biggest thing I've lost is the contacts with people in the industry, with PR people and vendors and small developers and those kind of things, where they can go, hey, I remember Shawn, met Shawn at Macworld Expo.
Exactly.
And I can reach out to him about this. He showed interest in our product or our company or whatever it might be. He said he wanted to know more about it or those kinds of things. And I really felt the loss of that over the IDG Macworld Expo ended in 2014. And over the last 5-6 years, I really felt the loss of that connection with the community, where as much as we hated it for a period of time, trying to get ready for a Macworld Expo, it's even worse for CES, but trying to get ready for Macworld Expo so soon after the holidays and everything's getting ready and flying there and finding a hotel and all that kind of stuff. The people that I met there, whether they were listeners or press or vendors or Apple folks, I really miss that loss of connection with those people.
Yeah.
And it's also why I'm, to this day still pissed off at IDG for screwing it up. And someone mentioned something on Facebook. John Kalon mentioned that he still had his T-shirt from the Macworld Expo Your Mac Life Rocks party. Every year we put on a open bar party at Macworld Expo from I think 2000 till about 2012, and it was the biggest open bar at the thing. And I wanted to send a special huge shout out. People sent me a bunch of tweets about, I remember that party. It was a great time. I had a blast. Thank you very much. I did nothing for any of those parties. I don't want any credit for any fun you had at any Macworld Expo Your Mac Life Rocks party. It wasn't me. It was all Sly. Sly did an amazing job at getting the sponsors, at getting the venue, at making all the arrangements. If you got on a bus and drove down to Cupertino to go to the Apple store with us, that was all Sly. Sly arranged all that stuff. The only thing I arranged, nothing. So I'm just realizing nothing. She arranged the flights. She arranged everything. I've always said that if I ever became rich and needed an executive assistant, I'd hire Sly, because she's the most organized person you could ever imagine. She was fantastic. So all the arrangements with the bars and the bands that we had, it was all her, and I had nothing to do. I was just the host. I still remember the very first time that I realized that, for lack of a better term, I was the man at Macworld Expo. The comedian Sinbad.
Mm-hmm.
He was a fixture at Macworld Expo. He's not a famous comedian. He's not a Robin Williams level comedian, but he was a very nice guy. He stopped and talked to anybody who wanted to talk to him when he came, and he always went to Macworld Expos in San Francisco. I remember walking up to him one time and talking and just chatting, and arranging an interview with him. And after the interview, I said, "Here, I know you're a busy guy, but here's a couple tickets to our party tonight if you want to come." That was it. It was just a nice thing to do. Party started at 8 o'clock. At about 8:30, someone says, "There's a limo outside." Now, limo? I thought I was the one who showed up in a limo. I rented a limo every year to show up to my party because I thought I had to. I wore a suit too. And so I go outside, and I'm like everyone else, rubbernecking, and Sinbad gets out of the limo. And the first thing he does is, "Shawn!" They're like, yeah, baby.
Because you the man?
Because I the man. And the funniest thing was, people think of Sinbad as being a big black guy. But Sinbad's my height and my size. So I don't think of him as being big. And we're the same skin color. It's very funny. You see pictures of me and Sinbad during that party. Look, he's as pale as I am. And he hung out he doesn't drink. He hung out for an hour and a half, and he danced with Sly, and he seemingly had a great time. So that was a lot of fun. I think it was up till because what happened is Apple used to put on this gigantic party, and then they stopped. They said because of money, but I'm not sure exactly why. But they stopped, and the next year there were no big parties. There wasn't that one party that everybody was going to. And I said, well, why can't we do it? Not realizing how much frickin' work it was going to be. And so I said, okay, Your Mac Life will put on a big
But did you
party.
have to pay to go?
No, it was a free party. You had to get tickets.
Oh.
And by accident, it became an exclusive party because we would get money from the sponsors, and then you had to pay the hall rental, the bar rental, and then you had to pay for the liquor bill ahead of time. And the problem was any money that didn't get spent on liquor, they kept. So if you gave them $5,000 for the liquor bill and a bill only came to $4,000, they kept $1,000. The reverse wasn't true. If you gave them $5,000 and people drank $6,000, you had to give the bar another $1,000. And so I didn't have $1,000 to give a bar. I had no idea how much these nerds were going to drink. Open bar and all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay, we're gonna limit the number of tickets. So that way we can assume that people will have 3 drinks each. We do the math. We'll give the bar this amount of money. This way we won't lose money on it. And so the tickets were controlled by Sly and handed out to the vendors. And then the vendors gave the tickets out to the people they wanted. So if you sponsored the party, you got X number of tickets. That's how we arranged it. And so anyone came to us for tickets, we said, we don't have tickets. Go to one of the vendors to get tickets. Go to their booth, go to Griffin, or go to these other companies. And it worked out really well because people just wanted tickets. They were clamoring to get tickets. We had a few to give away to friends, and we gave some away as prizes on various things. And we had probably each of us had 10, 15 tickets to give away to friends, but the vast majority of them were given to vendors. And it just accidentally became this thing. Everybody wanted to go because they couldn't. It was that exclusivity thing really drew people. I still remember one time this woman, one of the bouncers at the door came and got me and said, "There's a woman out here who wants to see you." Okay, so I go outside and hi, I'm Shawn. I'm the host of the party, and she introduced herself. I had no idea who she was. I'd never heard her name before. And she said, if can we get in? I said, do you have a ticket? And she said, no, we don't. I said, well, I'm sorry, unless this is a ticket only party. If you don't, and she had 4 people with her. I said, if you don't have a ticket, we can't let you in. And she gave me the "Do you know who I am?" line, and I was like, no. She said, I'm very influential in the media. Sorry, lady, I don't care. So am I. The editor of Macworld magazine is in there. The editor of this magazine, of this pub website. They're already here. All the media I want to talk about me are already here. David Pogue from the New York frickin' Times is here. He's going to write about me in the New York Times. You can't do shit for me. She got all indignant about this stuff and said, I couldn't believe that she would use that line on me of, do you know who I am? And I was like, I have no clue who you are. We had a lot of fun at those parties. And again, it was all because of Sly. And as it got bigger and bigger over the years, we had to go to bigger places. We started off in a regular bar size place. Then we ended up at, I wish I could remember the name of the club. It had 2 levels and a huge dance floor and a huge dance space. The 2 levels thing was really cool because you'd look down on another group. And we had, sounds like something Violet Blue would say. Yeah, MacMan, is this the 20th anniversary of Super Pass? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Monty says, every year I went to Macworld San Francisco, Ian Schrey got me tickets to a Cirque de Mac party. I always felt so special to be able to get into that party. I got to talk to those people in those parties I'd otherwise never have. And I hated the Cirque de Mac party because the Cirque de Mac party was indiscriminate. They gave out tickets to everybody who asked for them. So the place was packed. It was wall-to-wall people. It took you 20 minutes to get to the bar to get a drink. Whereas I never wanted a party like that. I wanted a party where everyone could mingle freely and lots of space and be able to get to the bar easily and all that kind of stuff. So our parties were intentionally limited that way. We could have given free tickets out to everybody and had the place packed, but I never wanted it to be packed like that. And by accident, it became an exclusive ticket that everyone wanted to get to. So it was kind of fun. It was an interesting time. I still remember the Macworld Expo in New York City. I think it was going to be 2004 or 5. Steve Jobs was the CEO of the company at the time. And Natalie Karis was his PR handler. I really liked Natalie. She was constantly stressed because she was the handler for Steve Jobs. But she was constantly stressed. But when you saw her every now and then, when Steve wasn't around, she was very nice, very relaxed, lovely pair of twins she had. And I remember watching Steve Jobs walking through the Javits Center in New York City. It's called the Crystal Palace. Huge open foyer before you walked into the show floor. And so I saw Jobs walking from one end of the Crystal Palace. I'm walking towards him, trying to match speed with him so I can follow him around, maybe chat to him. And he gets to the door, the opening of it, and the security guard goes, "Stop! Where's your show pass?" And Jobs was like, "I don't have a show pass," because everyone had these lanyards with their entrance badge on it. And Jobs said, "I don't have an entrance badge." And the security guard said, "Then you're not getting in." And Jobs lost his shit. He went ballistic on the security guard. And the security guard did not care. Jobs is like, "Do you know who I am? This thing is meant for me. I gave the keynote yesterday." He's just going nuts. The security guard is like, "Sir, I don't care. I was told not to let anybody in who didn't have a badge. You don't have a badge? You're not getting in." So after cursing at this guy for like 5 minutes, and poor Natalie was just beside herself, they walked away. And apparently they went up to the show office and reamed out the VP of IDG, who was in charge of the Expo at the time, and demanded that the security guard get fired. And the VP, I talked to him later, he said, I'm not going to fire the guy. He did his job. I can't fire him for doing his job. I'm sorry that he didn't know who you were. Sorry, Mr. Jobs, that you're not the god you think you are among the security guard contingent. But no, that's what he's supposed to do. So next Macworld Expo, I saw Natalie Karis. She had like a stack of badges like this thick, just in case she needed something for somebody. Mac Van said, was that the year he came to the Griffin booth? He came to the Griffin booth a few times. The most memorable time was, for me, when he came to the Griffin booth in Tokyo, at the Macworld Expo in Tokyo, and none of the Griffin guys were there. And it was just me. The Griffin guys have all, because one of the things that you do is you network with people who buy your product. You don't just stand on the show floor trying to sell things to average people. You want to talk to the guy from Best Buy who'll buy 10,000 of your product. So Paul Griffin and Andrew of 12 South and one of the other guys from Griffin had walked away, and Jobs comes into the booth, and he looks at me and goes, "Tell me about this." About whatever it was. And that was the time, if you remember the PowerMate, the little knobby button that Griffin had that was a volume button that glowed blue. Really kind of cool. And because I was working for Griffin, I was in the offices in Nashville. I knew all about it. And so I'm like, okay, so I gave a demo of the PowerMate to Steve Jobs. And I could see, looking over his shoulder, as Paul Griffin and Andrew, I can't remember Andrew's last, Andrew Green. Andrew Green came back, and they were like appalled, like, what the hell is Shawn doing talking to Steve Jobs? And so I waved Paul Griffin over and said, Mr. Jobs, this is Paul Griffin. He's the owner of the company. And they started chatting. And I just sort of stepped back, and Andrew Green, who was the marketing director for Griffin, went, what the hell did you say to him? I said, dude, I just demoed the product. You shouldn't be doing that. Well, otherwise he would have walked away, okay? If I hadn't kept him here, he would have walked away. So, yeah, I had several Steve Jobs encounter. Yeah, the throbbing knob. That's right. Monty, the person who should have been fired was the IDG person who didn't make sure one of the first VIP badges issued was just Steve and Natalie. Remember, Steve Jobs is the guy who this stuff doesn't matter to him, whether because he's being a dick or whether he actually doesn't matter. He didn't have a license plate on his car. He had a Mercedes, I think it was a Mercedes SL something. He refused to put a license plate on it because in California, the law is or was that when you bought a new car, you didn't have to put a license plate on it for 6 months. So he just bought a new car every 6 months because he refused to put a license plate on it. And he always parked in the handicap parking because it was the closest spot to the front doors of One Infinite Loop.
Sorry, Steve, but that's arrogant.
It really
being
is.
an asshole. Sorry.
It really is. I mean, all he had to do was tell, hey, parking lot people, mark this spot as for Steve Jobs. That's all he had to do. But he never did. He just parked in the handicap parking. That was very funny. Oh, yes. Okay. Hang on a second. In our starting point photography segment for tonight's show, Apple has announced the iPhone night mode contest, shot on iPhone, shot with night mode on their website. And they're asking you to share your best iPhone night mode photos. Now, obviously, unlike other shot on iPhone campaigns, this is limited to just the iPhone 11, the 11 Pro, and the 11 Pro Max. If you don't have one of those, you can't enter the contest. You can enter via Twitter. You can enter via Instagram. You can enter via WeChat. You can enter by sending your photos directly to Apple. All Apple does is they give you little instructions of how to do that, hashtags and things like that. Apple got in a lot of trouble last year with this kind of campaign because they didn't acknowledge the winners. There were no prizes. There was no licensing fee. They're basically, Apple said, we'll award you this prize and then put your picture on billboards and on the website and advertising, all that kind of stuff. You're working for exposure. Apple's thought process with that was that the vast majority of people who were going to enter this contest weren't pros. They didn't need exposure. They didn't need that kind of recognition. And it was explained to them vehemently by some people that everyone wants recognition. You want to be able to point to your photo on a billboard in LA and go, that's my photo. Yeah, I'm a plumber, but I took that photo. There's my name on it. Here it is on my Instagram thing. It doesn't matter whether you're a pro or not. You deserve recognition. So Apple relented, backed down, and is announced then and has announced again they're going to be offering a licensing fee for 1 year for your photo, and they can use it wherever they want to use it. You're not going to get prizes. They're not giving you a MacBook Pro. They're not going to give you any physical objects, which I think they should, but they're not going to. They're going to pick 5 winners of the contest. Now, I'm going to give you some hints, one hint, because that's all you need, just one hint. Hints as to how to win the contest. And I'll take that hint directly from Apple's own website. And again, I'm going to cover up my wife's beautiful face. My apologies. To show you this. And here is how you can win the contest. Can you see it? Melissa, can you see the contest winner?
Yes, yes.
Can you see it here?
Yes, I think so.
See it here?
Oh, no.
All of these shots.
Put a person? Oh, no, not a person.
All
Light?
exactly.
There's a light somewhere.
Remember, as I've said 1,000 times on the show, photography is about light. It's about capturing light. It's about manipulating and shaping and seeing light. Without that ability, you can't be a consistently good photographer. One of the things I've noticed using the iPhone in night mode is that if you're just shooting a dark photo, it doesn't do a very good job. But when you include a point source of light, okay, just like you see in this photo, and that's the key. Look at that point source of light from the lantern of the fisherman. Look at the point source of light in this Golden Gate Bridge photo. Look at the point source of light in this photo and in this photo. I can almost guarantee you that every shot that you will see that's a winner of this contest will have that one bright focal point of light. And it's for a couple reasons. One, it's a visual guide to where to look in the photo. But in night mode, the iPhone will use that light to brighten up the entire scene. I wish people would put photos up, not before and after, but night mode on and night mode off to show you the significant difference in these kinds of shots. But that's going to be the key for any of these award-winning photos, is don't just take a picture. Perfect example would be of Melissa right now. If I took a picture of Melissa right now in night mode, it wouldn't come out as well as if there was a candle in front of her, because the candle will give that light source. If I turned off the light that we have on Melissa right now and just used the regular ambient light, it wouldn't come out very well. But if you put in a point source of light, a fairly bright, even just a candle, or a small light like they had in some of those shots, the photo will show up much, much better in iPhone night mode. So look for light if you're going to be entering this contest or using any iPhone night mode shot. Look for light. Doesn't have to be directly in the center of the photo, as the shot of the fisherman showed. It can be off center, to the left or to the right, above or below, but it will use that light source to illuminate the rest of the image. So keep that in mind if you're going to be doing this.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a comment to make.
That's a very good.
Speaking of
Hint.
the iPhone, I think one of the most interesting stats I saw over the Christmas holiday break was this one. The top U.S. devices activated from Christmas Day to New Year's Day in the United States. Now remember, this is in the U.S. where the iPhone is a much bigger deal than anywhere else. But look at this graphic. The top 9 devices activated in the U.S. in the week after Christmas and before New Year's. iPhone 11, number 1. iPhone XR, iPhone 7, 8, 11 Pro Max, 8 Plus, 6 Plus, 7 Plus, iPhone 10. It's not until you get down to number 10 of this list, I can't know how to say it, the Xiaomi Mi 4 LTE, does a device not iPhone related pop up on this list. I find that really, really interesting. Apple sales may have tailed off, but they're still hugely popular in the United States, and obviously those. I'd be willing to bet these are probably the same stats as you'd get if you looked at activations in Canada and in most of Europe, at least in the Western world kind of thing. Apple's still selling significant numbers of the iPhone 6 Plus. I could imagine that went to a lot of younger people, maybe even kids, maybe 10, 11, 12 years old. Same with the iPhone 7 Plus. The thing that interested me most was the fact that the iPhone 11 Pro, not the Max, never made the list. The iPhone 11 is the single most popular one. And then next is the iPhone XR. Those are both the lower cost versions of the iPhone, the latest versions of the iPhone. So I think that shows that people are still budget conscious. They still want an iPhone. They don't want to pay $1,000+ for it, but they're willing to pay good money for a good device. And then there's a group, the iPhone 11 Pro Max comes in at number 5. There's a group who just want the best. They want the absolute best device they can lay their hands on, and that's who's buying this one. The people in the middle, you're either if you're in the middle, you are either budget conscious, therefore you go for the 11, or you're serious about the iPhone, whether it be for photography or anything else like that, so you'll go for the iPhone 11 Pro Max. What I'd be curious about is how the Max breaks down in storage size. How many people went for the Max, the biggest storage size one versus the smaller storage size one. So it's an interesting statistic I saw over the holidays. I think it's it for the show. Monty, Xiao Mai. Thank you, Monty. Xiao Mai. Monty says, I bet the XRs got given to a lot of kids for Christmas by parents. I don't know. The XR is still that's Melissa's phone. It's still a very good phone. I don't know if I'd give, it always depends on how you define kid.
Rory got an iPhone 10.
Rory got the iPhone 10.
When he got the hand-me-down
He got a hand-me-down 10, which I think that's the max I'd give a 14-year-old.
He loves it.
Oh, he absolutely loves it. But I think that's the, obviously I wouldn't get a 14-year-old the top end thing. I told you about this story. Did you see this story? The swallowed AirPod sends 7-year-old to emergency room. When I first saw the headline, I thought, oh, that's awful. How did that happen? Well, as I read the story, I got more and more angry because the AirPod, he didn't swallow his big brother's AirPod. He didn't swallow his mom's AirPod. He swallowed his own AirPod. He's 7. The hell are you giving a 7-year-old an AirPod for? That's a $250 device. Now, I don't think 7-year-olds are any more prone to putting things in their mouths than
Oh,
older
no.
than that. But
No,
that's
no.
not the point.
That's not the point.
He's 7.
Yeah.
He still isn't putting his toys away properly.
That's right. Yeah.
How easy is it going to be for a 7-year-old to lose an iPod,
I just
AirPod?
don't understand why he even had it in his mouth.
Well,
It's an odd thing
he
for
was
a 7-year-old to do. I can see a toddler doing that, but not a 7-year-old.
He said he was holding it in his mouth by the long end. So just probably, maybe his hands are busy doing something
Holding
else
it.
and he put it in his mouth.
And then
The funny thing is that he was like, "Mom, I don't want my phone," because he got an iPhone for Christmas. He's like, I don't want to be near my phone. I don't want it to connect my phone and start playing music in his stomach. But yeah, I'm sorry. Monty, at 7, he should have known better than put his mouth. But at 7, his parents shouldn't be buying him an AirPods.
wow.
I don't have AirPods.
We won't even get those for Rory.
No kidding.
And he's a very responsible kind of, guy.
Anyway, that's it for tonight's show. I want to say thanks very much, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com for joining us here each and every week, especially for the first show of the new year. Thanks to you guys for being tuned in here on the first show of the new year. Again, if you can support our friends in Australia, please do. Go to the Facebook page to donate to the Australian Firefighters Fund. As always, thanks, Melissa.
You're welcome.
Talk to you next week.
Next week. Next time we talk will be next week.
No, I meant to talk to you next week.
Yeah. Good
I'm saying
night,
I'm not
everyone.
going to talk to you until next week.
Yes.
Folks, as always, I've been Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
And you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!
Bye.